like your business, because you want to brand it as like, this is us. This is not like our little piece of a big company. It's like exactly what Melinda's doing. You know, there's this big company, FlexiSlim, and she has her own little brand, Making Memphis Slim. So it's like, you're not interacting with like the Mary Kay lady, you know, it's like, it's her own business. And it's like your own business. Okay. Does that make sense?
So, because there are a lot of people who are associated in a direct selling company, and there are people all over the United States doing that. And that's kind of what I'm hearing here, is this is a place to come learn about branding yourself. Because next year, you might not be selling the same thing you've decided to sell now. It's like changing jobs.
It's a good business strategy.
Exactly.
Okay. One quick question. In doing the Facebook name change, should you use spaces in between Making Memphis Slim or not? It is available.
I don't think it matters,
okay.
Honestly, because you can't use spaces in a domain.
Okay. But I like it, the look of it, and I know a lot of people have said, so it does not make a difference.
I really don't think it matters. I don't think people are going to put dashes in between.
Okay.
And you can easily say makingmemphislip.com.
Yeah, well, like I said, I can change the name from what I had before, which was Plexus Slim Pink Drink, to now Making Memphis Slim. It's checked availability. I'm ready to push the button and go.
Yeah, go for it. And you can always change the name that, you know, just like the name of the page. When you're changing the URL, the actual like facebook.com/blank.
That's what this
you can only change that. Okay.
Once.
Yeah, you can change it once.
And it says you may change this, and I've checked the availability. I don't know why it won't let me do anything else. It doesn't say where you can just go and do it now.
It may be kind of funky because it's on an iPad. Sometimes the responsiveness
because it says check availability, but there's no, you know, where do you go next?
Let me see what it's showing.
Well, you know, it goes to check availability. You hit that and it says it's okay, but now there's no step to go actually do it.
Oh, I think it's because you have spaces.
Oh, so it doesn't like that.
Right, because that's the actual URL.
Okay.
It may just be because Facebook isn't always the greatest with mobile responsiveness. But it should let you in. I would just try it on a desktop if it doesn't work here. Okay. But right, as you guys were saying, I mean, everything that you do on the internet, you have to think about this is branding. This is, you know, actually a huge part of your branding, because this is what people are seeing. This is where people are. They're on social media. So it's great to remember that anytime you set up anything like a blog, tweet anything, anything that you're putting out there, it doesn't go away, ever. If you go to trial, Twitter can, like, it can be an exhibit, your tweets, so you have to remember all of that when you're out there on the internet. I think we're gonna take a short break for like 2 minutes. There's cheesecake for a slice for $1.50. And since Sarah made it, I'm sure it's amazing. So let's take a really short break and then we'll come back in about 2 minutes.
That's where I've got to go. Okay, that did work.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay. Everybody, there is cheesecake over here, $1.50 per piece. Sarah, you want to tell everybody about your cheesecake?
It's just a plain original cheesecake with a little bit of lemon zest in it. So it's got that lemony flavor, homemade crust. Every bit of it's homemade. So I slaved over it for about 2.5 hours. Yes. I haven't made a cheesecake in about 1.5 years, so I forgot how. So
yeah.
It helped. Yes, thank you. I can think of a word, but
I voted for it, so I'm definitely getting my piece.
All right. So there's also chocolate kisses over there as complimentary, and complimentary coffee. And I encourage you to get up and walk around a bit and talk and exchange, and then we'll get started again with this session. Delmar, would you like to speak to the virtual audience real quick and just let them know where we are in this process, and all the information is right there on the board.
Hello, virtual audience. Sherry is always putting me on the spot. Okay, so we're taking a break right now with our stylist quo, Cheryl Hurley. She's doing a fabulous job of answering our questions about blogging, how we can take our blogging to the next level. If you are joining us virtually, you can tweet us at BOC Coffee. Our hashtag today is BOCI. And to include our stylist quo, Cheryl Hurley, in on your tweets, her Twitter handle is at the stylist quo, and you can do hashtag blogging so we can begin kind of trending and everything. I think myself, Beverly Borg, and Sherry Henley, we're all tweeting because I see our tweets in our feed. So I think that's going to be start some trends for us and just keep everybody on board with what we're doing. So that's where we are now. We're about to come off a break, and Cheryl Hurley is going to jump back into it in probably about the next minute or two so we can continue learning about blogging.
Thank you, Delmar.
For the new year. We'll do that. Let's get on the calendar for the week today. Okay.
Do we have the URL of the Ustream?
What'd you say, Cheryl?
It is.
I was gonna blast her on Twitter.
It is ustream.tv/channel/business/over-.
Okay. People can actually go to our site and get right to it. That's the best way to do it.
Okay.
That would probably be better than
Thank you, this is my treat for
Oh,
my
you're welcome.
Valentine's Day.
Day.
No chocolate, but I'm gonna have splurge.
I'm great, how are you?
Love that necklace. That's great.
I bought it at a silent auction at Christmas time. I've enjoyed it like everything.
It's a fancy looking one.
How do I bid it? Oh, it's all on a piece of paper and you just look at the items and.
I've never been to
Well, they start from like $10 and you have to go up by, increments of whatever you're spending on it. So $2 or $5.
Yeah, it is. Well, that's why it's,
Okay, so can you get on
for a while.
I can send it to you. I was thinking about putting it online. Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
All right. I'll just do that right now, actually. That'll be easier.
Okay,
I
real
have my to-do
quick,
list on me.
wanted to let everyone know that there's some action going out there on Twitter. We do have 5 new followers, and one of them is Minnie Bill Clinton. And so we thought that was funny. So hello, Minnie Bill Clinton. And then we have 4 others that have followed us. In addition to, we have at HR Brain for Hire, who is posting right now on Twitter, and Delmar Johnson. So continue to put your post out there, continue to communicate with us, ask questions. We want to know, and we want to be able to answer those for you.
Okay. I guess we'll get started again. I'm gonna put a to-do list item in real quick. Oh, sorry, I think I keep moving the computer.
Oh.
And then,
Yeah, because actually if you do this, that'll probably stop that.
oh yeah, that's right.
Cords are all kind of.
All right. So, I guess we'll get started back again. Are there any questions you thought of while we were eating cheesecake? I think everyone's brains went to cheesecake and not vlogging. Okay, so just to wrap up the naming section, what I would do for you guys is definitely think about trying to brand your business. And exactly like we were talking about before, when you brand your business as you and not like just this little part of a larger business, you have the freedom to change it. You know, and that's what I have with SQ Modern Media. If I decide I really want to work with restaurants and food, then I can do that because it's me and I can change it at any time. And just like what Delmar is doing, you know, she's kind of defining her little niche, and as she goes along, I'm sure it'll change and you'll tweak it a little bit. So I would definitely put a lot of emphasis on that. And you can send people there, and I would definitely go for a .com. But I think if you think about it, you'll be able to find one that works for you guys. And go to namecheck.com and GoDaddy and make sure that that's ready to go. And I will send you the presentation from last time so you have those guidelines to look at. Okay? Okay. Sure. So are there is there anything else about naming? Okay. All right, well, what we're gonna do now is actually set up a blog so that you kind of have just the general idea behind setting up a WordPress blog. This is really simple, but I wanted to go through it anyway and show you a few of my favorite little tricks and themes and all of the stuff that I've learned over the years with WordPress. So I guess it's, well, let's see. I would assume you guys will be using WordPress.
Let me ask you, are you going to show us how to like set up the domain going like through Bluehost or Gator?
I was thinking, since I was planning on doing just a WordPress.com, but it seems like the WordPress application might be better for us. So we'll do that. I have my...
What's the difference in that application?
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. WordPress.com is, well, I guess I'll tell you guys a little story.
That's the freebie, right?
Yes.
Okay.
My fiance is an attorney, and he's a great attorney. He is so good at sports. Not like playing sports. He's not good at playing sports. But he has amazing insight when it comes to games, and you know, he really captures the emotional side of it. Not, you know, of course, I'm always thinking, I'm so like, I was entrepreneurial from like the get-go. I was like selling magazines when I was 5 years old, like little illustrations. I mean, that's just, I can't get around it. So I was like, let's rebrand you as like a sports agent, you know, and I was like, how are we gonna do this? We'll write a blog, it'll get really popular, you know, and then whatever. So I convinced him to write a sports blog, but I didn't know if he was actually gonna do it because I thought he would, you know, do it like twice and then never do it again. So I sent him up a WordPress.com just because it's free and it's like, it's easy. And we could kind of see if it was gonna stick. And I did the same thing with my first food blog. I just used a WordPress.com. And once I started doing it for a while, I realized, okay, I'm gonna keep doing this. I like this name, let's commit, essentially. So I'm building him a TennesseeSportsaholic.com so that he'll be like real now. But yeah, WordPress.com is great for just, you know, if it's like I had to do blogs for grad school sometimes, and I just do it on WordPress.com. I'm not gonna, you know, you think $12 after like $4,000 a semester is nothing, but what's the point? So if you're doing a blog for your business, most likely you're going to be going through hosting. But the limitations on WordPress.com are, it's going to say WordPress.com after your username. So it would say like makingmemphislim.wordpress.com. You can pay, I think it's like $13 a year to use your domain name, but there are other limitations on WordPress.com in that you can't use and install plugins of your own, which means like a plugin is kind of an app for your blog. So a plugin that I use, let me show you guys. And this is my lifestyle blog, which started out as a food and fashion blog and is now lifestyle blog and wedding because we're engaged. Oh. So I just picked a name that kind of encompassed all of that, and I can change as we go along. Well, it's kind of loading slow. I think that's the internet on my page, hopefully. But if you see right up here, this share bar, that is a plugin. Okay. So I just installed that, and it shows up at every post. I haven't really promoted this much.
And this is the blog I'm always stalking.
Yes, this is the blog that Caroline's always stalking, so everybody knows. And then down here, if it'll load. It says you might also like, and it shows different somewhat related posts. That's a plugin. So it just is extra little bells and whistles, but a lot of times they're really important bells and whistles. Like a good comment system and, you know, a CAPTCHA, you know, where it's like you have to type the letters that are all like jumbled up. Oh, I hate them. I wrote a blog on how much I hate them. But my CAPTCHA is like regular letters. It's like just typed letters. And it works and it's great, so I use that as a plugin over what just comes with WordPress. So you can't add any of those things on WordPress.com. And at the same time, if WordPress.com locks you out, like if you violate any of their terms and conditions, but I don't think you would, you know, but sometimes, I mean, sometimes you will and you don't intend to and you don't think that you're doing anything bad, but they can lock you out. I mean, I prefer to have everything that I like to own it. And there's just a lot more you can do with the WordPress application. And I'm writing an ebook on blogging, and I go into this at length, like serious detail. So when that comes out, you guys can learn all about the differences. But just for now, I would recommend to use the application if you have a website. If you're thinking, I'm just going to start blogging just to see, then there's no problem with trying WordPress.com.
You know, the WordPress.org, I guess is where you're going. What about, I've spent like $500 to buy a thing called iThemes, which is like a complete suite for building websites for people and things like that. And I'm wanting to learn to use that.
Okay.
I mean, that all works with org, right?
Right, and what WordPress.org is, it's essentially the support for the application WordPress. Right. Because there's nothing hosted on WordPress.org. But if you look for themes, if you go to the forum. If you break your blog like I do and have to have other people who know what they're doing fix it, that's where you go. The plugins are all on there.
Yeah, and that's what I did. I had someone else hired to do this, and it's like nothing was happening, so I just jumped on the other night and figured it out. And I used one of their themes, and it looks great, and it's clean, and I'm ready to go.
I pulled this up earlier that I specifically for you. This is what I use for my social media website, and it's a free WordPress theme, and it took me like a couple hours maybe to do this, and that includes all the design. And this is a slider if it'll do sliding.
Looks great.
Was it a photography site or template or something? Because I mean,
I don't think so. I think it's
a lot of them have those sliders and stuff. Which I kind of want something along those lines for video and for photos.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that for what you're doing. This is the theme that I use. It's called Golden Eagle, but I think it's just for business.
Golden Eagle?
Yeah, that's just the specific theme. But one thing I really love about these themes is it's so easy on the back end to set it up. It's just like a page, and it says, what do you want your title to be? What slider image should you have? I love it. It's so easy. And so I do this for clients, and luckily I'm not designing any of you guys' websites, because I like to keep this a secret. But I mean, I just go on there. It's not like I don't do anything with brackets. I'm not coding.
And stuff. Yeah.
Right, and I can, but it's like, why? If it's, if it's this easy and it looks this good.
Exactly.
So you use Golden Eagle?
That's the specific theme that I use. Inkthemes.com has a lot of really great, super easy to use themes that have that sort of like fill in the blank kind of thing. And I will show you guys. This is actually, we're on schedule, so it's not like totally irrelevant. But I'll show you guys what it looks like, because I think a lot of people see a website like that and they're like, oh, surely I can't do anything like that. But it's so easy. If I can log in, that's the hardest part.
I know. Have problems getting
So many passwords.
See how that we're just getting dropped.
So this is the back end of WordPress application. And this is the theme options for the ink themes that I use. Typically, when you have theme options, you can kind of change the background image and like a font color. And then to change anything else, you have to go here and wade through all of this code, which, I mean, I personally learned HTML when I was like 11. Going back to that like super dorky thing, but for most people it's not fun. It's just, why learn it, unless you're going to be a coder. So this I prefer. Let's see if I can get some there. So here it says, main feature heading, social media solutions designed especially for your business, which correlates to right under the slider, like as simple as that. And then we have the first image. I think that's not working. Let's go to the second image. So the second image is services.jpg. And here we have my second image. I mean, it's so simple. It's just drag and drop, fill in the blank. Right.
And is it easy to change color schemes and things like that?
Yeah, I am always reluctant to spend money on stuff like this, because I'm like, I'll change it myself. But with the ink themes,
So you're using iThemes too?
I use ink themes.
Ink themes, okay.
That's just what I pulled that up to see what exactly what you're talking about.
It's probably the same type of thing.
It is, from what I can tell. The ink themes, you can get all of their themes for $147. And that means for Gold Eagle, there's all of these different color schemes. Same layout, different colors.
Right.
And the theme, to have the full version of the theme, it's only 45 bucks. So if you want to do that, luckily the demo themes that they have, you can just download for free, corresponded with my color scheme, so I didn't have to do anything else. But if you wanted like a gray scheme or a red scheme, which I kind of like for some reason I'm seeing red for you, black and white and red, then 45 bucks and you've got all your options. Okay, so let's go to the absolute back end. This is my host control panel. And really quickly, I'll just kind of go through the differences between hosting, applications, and websites. And I had a really great metaphor, but I can't remember it. Okay, well, we'll just go on metaphorless. Do what?
It'll come to you.
Yeah. As soon as I've explained it, I'll be like, oh yeah, it's like a car. Okay, so a host is, wait, it's almost there. I don't know, I've got nothing. The host is essentially where your website will live. It's like without the host, you have, I guess we can call it like a house. It's like a house.
It's good name.
So a domain name is your name, that's like your address. But without a house, an address doesn't mean much. Right?
Right.
Okay.
Hey.
I want to make sure this metaphor works. All right, you're with me? I'm going to end up confusing everyone. Right, so you can have a domain name all you want, but if you don't have a host, then there's nowhere for it to really go.
Your house is floating in space.
Exactly. You have this dream house out there, but you're waiting to like win the
It's your dream
free home
house.
makeover. Right. So what your host is it's your plot of land.
That's good.
If you don't own any land, your address means nothing and you can't build anything on it. But there's nowhere for you to go. So you can host your domain name, and that just means there's somewhere for your domain to live. You can build your house on this plot of land. Okay, it's making sense. All right, good. So you have an address, and you have a plot of land, and you can build something on there. You don't have to. You can type in your domain name, and it'll go to your host and say, it's hosted here, but there's nothing to see. So the domain is the address. The host is where you can build. And the website is the house. It's what there is to see. It's where you live. It's your hub. And that is your application. So your application is the house. When the application's on the land, on the address, that's a website. Does that make sense? So you have to have all three of those things. So what you start with is the address. It's where you want to buy your plot of land. And you buy your domain name, and you're good to go. So then you buy the plot of land. That means you buy hosting for it. And once you've got that, you can go register your address. So I don't have any floating domain names out there. But we'll put a blog on one of these. So it's pretty simple once you have your domain name to go to your host, and each of your hosts will tell you how to direct your domain name, which you buy from like GoDaddy or Google, will direct it to your specific host. I use WebFaction because I had a friend who was a developer and he like told me to, and they're all pretty much the same. But this is what I use. So every time I buy a domain name, I go in here and I click on add new domain, type in the domain names I bought, and then it like lives there. It's like all connected. But for your domain name to send you to the host, you have to change the name servers, which is where it kind of gets a little
Is
complicated.
it DNS number?
Exactly, it's pointing your DNS. So what I recommend, and the only reason I don't have to do this anymore is because I've added so many domains recently, is Google, if you're using GoDaddy, if you buy your name through GoDaddy, Google like GoDaddy point Nameservers to your host. And like type in like web faction. And it'll tell you the name servers you need to use to put into your GoDaddy to make it all work. It's without doing it all together, you know, every single one of us, it's kind of complicated to just explain in theory, but you can Google it pretty easily, and you'll understand what you have to do next. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I don't mind explaining it.
Up until now, I bought like probably 30 names on GoDaddy, but we've moved maybe a half dozen over to Bluehost, but I had someone else do it. I mean, is it best just to buy from Bluehost or Gator or someone like that to begin with? If it's got that GoDaddy habit, you know.
Right. What I do is I buy through Google, and they get their domain names from Enum or GoDaddy. But I really like what Google does. It has like, you have Google Apps, and you can do like your accounting online, and it sets up your Gmail automatically. So I do it all through there. But if you can host and do your domain names all in one, you're saving yourself the trouble of having to point your DNS.
Right.
And if that's important to you, then, you know, go for it. But I really like the email being set up and the application's all there. And I just really like Google. I'm really like a big fan of Google.
Because of the Gmail and all of that too? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I just have a thing for Google in general. But let me see if I can show you guys what it looks like to host through Google.
So it's Google Apps. With being involved with Google like that, it not only help with just maintaining the website, blog, etc., but also keeping up with a team of freelancers, because I use a lot of freelancers.
Actually, yes. It's so simple. When I was working on a startup a couple months ago, and when I registered the name with Google, all I had to do was go in and say like add new team member, and their email was ready, and we could communicate on apps. It was so simple. So yeah, I would recommend if you're doing that to use Google. Yeah, I can show you that in a second if I can remember the password. Oh, it kills me. Okay, so here's the dashboard for Google Apps for my domain, and this is my business domain. It's loading. But there's the Google Apps Marketplace, and there's thousands of applications you can add to your domain, like MailChimp, and I use WYOW accounting, which is a lot of them are free. And yeah, I think you can use Zoho, CRM.
Zoho, I've looked into that just briefly. They do like, it's basically a very light CRM, right?
Yeah, it's
management.
It's primarily cloud-based. Well, actually, I think the CRM is fairly new, but it's good task management and CRM. And one thing I like about Zoho is it's kind of like Google. It has like a lot of things under one umbrella.
And invoice from it.
Yeah. And it does integrate with Google Apps, and I think QuickBooks does also. So that's pretty cool. There's a lot. I mean, anyone who has any business sense is going to make their stuff be able to integrate with Google, in my opinion. Okay, so here's the dashboard. If you see in here my Google Apps, these are just the ones that come up immediately. Those are all Google-based, like Gmail, Google Calendar, Drive, etc. All of the other ones that you add, you find going through more up here. So I have like Untitled. That's the only one. Untitled, I think, is what I use for my CRM. And it works pretty well, and I like the design. But if you go to organization and users, I don't have any other users on here because it's just me. But it's so simple just to click create new user, and you've got they'll get an invitation to go to your business applications for your domain. And there's, they automatically have a Gmail account created, Google Apps.
Which on the Gmail thing, you have to use the Gmail, because what I would like to do is Don at We Tell Your Stories versus Don at Gmail.
Right, yeah, Gmail is essentially the host.
Okay.
I do all of my email through Gmail because it's where they're hosted. But it's Cheryl at SQ100 Media.
But you can actually use your real URL.
Yeah. Let me show you. So if I log into my dashboard here, and I click to Gmail.
This is great. I didn't know you could do that.
So see it's loading Cheryl at SQ100media.com, but it looks just like everything about it is Gmail otherwise. So.
Wait a minute, what was that? I missed something. What did you just do?
I logged into, we were at Google domain, or the Google Apps.
Okay.
Which if you buy your domain through Google, you automatically get this come with it. And it just means that your email's already created. I hate wrestling, trying to get email hosted on my host and getting it, it's just too complicated. So I'm a huge fan of Google Apps for that reason, and Google domains.
So if I wanted to move everything to there now, it would be just a matter of setting up for apps and then going in and start adding people, and then how do you go out and grab those old email addresses or whatever?
Honestly, I don't know. I could find out. I would assume, I've never had to do that, but I would assume you would just transfer your domain, and Google has pretty good customer service. So if for some reason you had like straggler emails, they would be able to help you.
Okay, when you transfer your domain though, mine's on Bluehost right now, you would be able to see my website, my blog, and everything too?
Because your domain and your host are the same thing, I'd have to go into Bluehost and see if there's a way you can transfer the domain name without transferring the hosting.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be, we can talk,
Okay.
and I'll help you figure it out.
Okay.
But I don't think there's any just straight answer for that, unfortunately. Okay, so are there any questions? Essentially, what this was all about is get Google domains when you buy a domain, and it will make all of this easier. It makes it's so much easier to be pro without being a programmer. Be pro without being a programmer. I can kind of sense a tagline.
So if you've gotten a Gmail email, I've just created makingmemphisslim@gmail.com.
Okay.
So I've signed in there. So to get to where you were, where do you go on here?
You have makingmemphisslim.com. You own that domain, right? And it's through GoDaddy.
So I've got to transfer it.
Do you have a host yet? Okay.
And it's hosted at GoDaddy.
Okay. Well, there's a difference between your domain, buying your domain from GoDaddy, and GoDaddy hosting it.
Okay.
It's possible that they're doing that.
So I need to check.
I would check that.
Okay. So I can actually host it at Gmail instead of
Well, you can host it at Google.
Okay.
Well, you don't necessarily host it at Google.
Okay.
You can sign up for Google Apps for business.
Google Apps for business.
Right.
Okay.
So when you're buying a domain, well, I just recommend that you go to Google Domains. I just Google Google Domains, and it takes you through the process really, really quickly and really easily. And then you don't have to worry about setting it up later, but you do have to host it somewhere.
Okay, so that's what I can look at doing, is hosting it on Google.
Yeah, well, having your domain being directed through Google. We'll talk about it.
Okay,
I have to look at your specific situation.
Okay, I'm just going to make a note there. Okay.
Okay. Okay, so I guess what we'll do is I'll show you guys quickly how to host an app, or to mount an application on your domain name through your host. So we'll add we're gonna put a little blog on GeorgiaGenomeProject.com. I haven't done anything with this, but at one point I had this great idea to get measurements of like tens of thousands of people and create universal sizes. So didn't pan out just yet, but when I have some free time, that's what I'm gonna do. So let's start today. Okay, so here I have already added the domain that I own, and I've pointed the DNS, which is the domain name servers, to WebFaction. So I went into GoDaddy and said, hey GoDaddy, you're my address, send this to WebFaction. So next, I want to build a house. So I'm gonna make an application for Georgia Genome Project. So I clicked on add new application, and there's no way you guys will be able to just like remember this and make sense of it and go home and like quickly do it. I just want to kind of give you guys an overview of the process. If you have any specific questions, feel free to email me. I'm on my phone constantly and I will get back to you. Okay, so I'm creating the application. We'll call it Georgia Genome Project GGP WordPress WP. GGP WP. Okay, the app category, we're going to use WordPress as an application.
Okay, now, time out. When you say app, you're talking like apps like run on iPhones and stuff like that, or just another word for an application that works within
It's
WordPress?
an application just like Word is an application.
Okay, gotcha.
I mean, app was being used for like WordPress websites before there was iPhone.
Right.
So it's kind of the same thing. Like it's a program that you're attaching to your domain to use something. But when you think of an app on iPhone, it's kind of like a separate thing that you can, you know, it's not necessarily
It's a tool,
the same
separate
thing.
tool that resides there to do an application.
Right, but it's like with iPhone, even if you don't have the Facebook app, you still have an iPhone.
Right.
And it's not necessarily the same thing on a domain. You know, if you have no application on your domain, you don't really have much. If that makes any sense. Okay. So I created GGPWP as the name of the application, and we'll add that, and it's a WordPress. And we'll wait. Are there any questions while we wait?
It'll be after the second hearing, after I go back and read it again, listen to it again.
Okay, here we go. All right, so I've created the application. So now I want to make a website by essentially joining the application with my domain, which is hosted. So it's like the three come together and you actually have something. So I go to add new website. The name is going to be Georgia Genome Project. The domain will be Georgia Genome Project, and it'll bring up the domain I've already added onto the host. So it brought up GeorgiaGenomeProject.com. Click on that, and then the contents is essentially, I have nothing without the application, as I'm sure you guys know now. So I'm going to add that application and tell that application, you're going to go live at GeorgiaGenomeProject.com. So we'll say reuse an existing web app because we already made the one before, or you can just create a new one. It's really all the same. And here is GGPWP. Click on that, add application, and then add website. So it might not work immediately because the DNS has to propagate, which just basically means it has to have some time to be like, huh? Oh, okay. But in the meantime, we need a password to get into the application. So you go back to applications, which is where all the information about your WordPress application will live. Down here it says extra info, and this may be specific to WebFaction in terms of where this is. This process will be similar for most hosts. But down here it has all these different letters. It's like uppercase C, lowercase u, uppercase F, blah, blah, blah. That's the password. So I'm going to write that down. Okay. And we'll try to log in, see if it works. So I'm going to go to my website, which is georgiagenomeproject.com/WP-admin. And that just means how I get into it. So let's see if this works. Okay, it's not gonna, we'll give it a second. And in the meantime, we'll try to log in a bit. But this is what will happen once you give it some time.
Got a question. I just discovered about responsive web blogs. You might want to address that
Yeah.
versus just grabbing a plain old vanilla one.
Right, totally. And that's exactly what we were talking about with Facebook before. When a WordPress theme or website is responsive, that means, and I'm sure you've all experienced this, but maybe you didn't know that there was like a word for it, or there was really an underlying concept. When you visit a website on your phone and it's the same website on your desktop, just smaller, that means it's not responsive. When it's clear that this is the mobile site, you know, and it's easier to see and there's like bigger menus, that means it's responsive. It's responding to the size of the mobile device you're using. So if I visited a responsive website, it would be much smaller on my Galaxy than on Melinda's iPad because it's responding to the specific device. And there are several, most of the time when you're picking a WordPress theme, it'll say this theme is responsive, or if it doesn't say it, it probably isn't responsive.
And most of them aren't at this point. I've noticed, at least what I've been looking at, was maybe a half a dozen, something like that.
Right. And the trend is definitely going towards mobile, which I'm sure you guys are noticing. But
that's where my customers are.
Right, exactly. So having a responsive website is important. And you can always work around it, especially if you're, depending on the content and depending on what you're doing with your website, it's not always absolutely, totally necessary. But I think for a blog, it's really important. You know, if you want people to read your blog on the go, or you know, access your information, and especially if they're going to meet you and you have a physical store, which I don't think any of us necessarily does. You don't have a store, okay? You don't have a studio. It's not as huge of a deal, but if you're trying to like get to a doctor and you have to find their address and it's like not a responsive website, you're like, you have to make, which is awful. So for all the doctors out there, make responsive websites. Okay.
This is a responsive website right here. I turn it sideways and it just fills it up no matter which way you go. You don't miss anything.
Exactly. So that's a great point. When you're looking for themes, keep that in mind. So what we're gonna do now is try to log in. Okay, this is still not working. So to get to after you give it like usually about an hour for the DNS to propagate, you go to your domain. We're going to go to the status quo /WP-admin. That means WordPress administrator, which you think sounds obvious, but it wasn't until like a month later I was like, oh, okay. This keeps logging in. I want to show you guys what it looks like from the start.
It's like WP dot
dash admin. Okay, so this is what it'll show you. And the username is always admin. And the password will be whatever your little password was at the application. I've already changed this one, I think. Okay, well, I don't know the password for this. I might have actually changed it. This is when I was thinking I was just going to do blogging consulting. That's the website I made. Now it redirects, like you were saying, it redirects automatically to SQ Modern Media when I decided I want something a little more broad. So when you log in successfully, I'm like, hey, this is what you'll get. This is your dashboard for WordPress. Even if you don't have a theme, you will get to this point. And let's see. Now would be a good time for, if like Melinda is doing, adding different users who can access the blog.
Okay.
You can go to users down here. Can everyone see this, or should we turn off more lights?
I think we turn off more lights so you can see better on the
Okay.
stream.
Okay, thank you. So if you're trying to have multiple people be able to post blogs, you can go to users. Oh yeah, I think that's better. Ooh, I like this. You guys can't see my face.
Is that too dark?
Cheryl, can I ask something? Because I'm so far behind. Do I, on this computer, I don't have WordPress downloaded, but on my desktop I do. Now, of course, I don't have my number, but if I download this WordPress here, right?
But they're not on .org, they're on WordPress.com, the free one. That's the one that has to be hosted.
Okay, all right.
Are you using WordPress.com?
At home.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't have mine. I don't have it on this, you know what I'm trying to say, my password.
Okay.
So I need to get where, just where Delmar told me to go, so let me go there first.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Yeah, totally.
I'm gonna come back and listen to it again
Okay.
several times, so.
Okay, so you go to users and then add new. It's pretty straightforward. I guess let's see, I'll add a username, SQ, oh, this is the Stylist Quo. Mr. Stylist Quo. So if my fiance ever wanted to write a blog, which is not gonna happen, he could. Now it'll send him an invitation, I think, and he'll like yes. And his website is TennesseeSportsaholic.wordpress.com for now. Well, we'll just go with .com. And we'll make his password Magnolia82. That's the name of our dog. And then who's one. So now you guys can all log in and post on my blog. And I'm going to make him a contributor. Say add new user. Okay, so what he can do, as far as I know, is he should have a link email to him and be able to log in the same way that we logged in and post a blog. If not, what he can do is go to the status quo /WP admin, just like we do to take care of our blog, to write posts, whatever. And his username will be Mr. Stylist Quo and Magnolia82. Just like ours was admin and the numbers that it gave us. Okay. So if I want to change my password from whatever it was, you know, like all the different numbers and letters that you aren't going to remember ever, you can go to the same place where we went to add a new user and click on admin, go down just a little bit, and it'll say new password, and you can just change it there. You can also connect to your social networks, and it'll allow you to post, like tweet and post on Facebook and whatever. Okay. So now we're to the point where we want to add a theme. which essentially just means we want to make it look a certain way. It will come with something automatically, but it'll be very basic. And you'll most likely want to change the way that it looks. Okay. So in this case, I guess we should probably take a break. It's been like another hour. Sorry guys, I got so wrapped up in this. Let's take like a few minutes and come back and we'll finish out the themes and stuff. Are there any questions before we break? All right, go break.
Cheryl, this is really difficult to explain on chat line.
Yeah, I know.
What?
Just use keywords and everyone will think we're like, really know what we're talking about.
Sure.
Yeah, it's probably on the chat. Just need to occasionally put blogging made simple. Want to learn how to blog? Tune in. You know, just I think that would be good.
Make it like blogging made like reasonably understandable. Falsely advertise it.
Blogging for semi-geniuses.
We give IQ tests before we let anyone in. And lots of coffee.
Could you take a look at something here and just tell me, give me a look. I'd be happy to hire you to help me out.
Sure.
This is
Trying to read this.
one I like.
Listen to this.
Okay.
And I'm just wondering, can I really buy that for that and then go in and build it? It's basically a WordPress thing.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go to look at this, because I want to be able to, and here's the thing, I don't know if I can get one app and build the whole thing that I described, Life, Love, Biz. Each one is kind of its own little website.
Okay.
Or if I have to buy 3 of those plus a splash, something for a splash
You
page.
should be able to buy just one and you'll be able to download
That's
it.
kind of what I thought.
Yeah, that's what it's, I don't see why it wouldn't let you do that. I don't think it's gonna give you like a license.
Yeah.
I would very much think that it's just the download.
It's responsive, it's beautiful, I think it does pretty much everything I want to do. I like, how the blog, I could have the name of the blog being, what I had. And the portfolio would go in and show, I would like to show video and photography for that niche, business or love stories or whatever. I don't know what this is, I'm not sure what it is, but obviously it's just extra pages, which may be kind of what services I offer, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, it's going crazy. I don't know what it is. And then, of course, the contact page is pretty cool. But it's just a nice template. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I like this.
I've got everything
Quick
hosted
question.
right now in a place called PhotoBiz, which
Somebody who wants to sign up as a virtual
they
member, just
it's
send
just
them to
made for
BOCI.com.
photographers, and it does install and all sorts of stuff. But it's fairly easy to use, but it's kind of limited. It doesn't have a true WordPress site on it. It's got their blog, which is driving me nuts. So, because of SEO and templates like this, I'm thinking, let's just go ahead and do
Yeah,
your own.
it's so simple. It really is. I mean, it seems complicated until you get a good theme.
I just kind of pecked around on my own and figured it out. And the one I built right now, back to it, is this right here.
I have a friend that just bought a commercial scanning pictures.
Internet.
And
That's just
so
one
he
of
wants to start
the
blogging
themes.
about
It's, I guess it's one of the pages, but I got it.
keeping
through
your
my
memories and
ideas
why you would
thing.
want to
She
do
built
that,
it
so
for
he
me.
should build his.
Okay.
I got it into the admin and I just started
Opportunity to find
unpacking
people
and
who
found
want to
this on the WordPress
writers.
themes available for
He
free.
can scan like 600 pictures in an
My
hour.
keyboard very well. That's amazing. Is he here?
He's in Memphis, yeah, and so,
Maybe that's it, okay.
he
But
actually
it's
does all
clean.
the,
But I would, if I stayed with this, I thought, gosh, that's not that easy.
the
I'll
music
build 3 of
creation,
those and
the,
just, build from there, but then I found
pictures
the
on the
answer. So
screens for our church.
Are you thinking you want
Yeah,
3 different
so,
domains or just like one
he's like
domain
a
in different
videographer.
sections?
Creator
I'm not
and
sure,
home
well,
for
in a
music.
perfect world, I think
And
I would
so he
like
had some, he
one
likes to put
domain, which
together
we tell your stories.
old
I
videos.
love storytellers, but it's been
Download
gone.
pictures
Yeah.
and put them on.
But we tell your stories,
Deal.
says what I do. And
Trying to figure out how to.
then that leads to a splash
Actually
page.
make a little
Splash
money.
page leads to 3 different websites, basically.
So I had suggested.
Yeah, I think
right,
that
this would be a
what
good thing for
I would
a
recommend for you would be
standpoint.
CNAME.
Absolutely.
So it would be like
Going and
live.wetellyourstory.com,
maybe,
love.yourstory.com,
you know,
Mhm.
wetellyourstory.com. And that way,
Next week would be a real
all
time to
on the
invite
same
them to
domains,
be
it's
more
essentially a
interactive
different
and working.
website.
Right, they're essentially the same,
Right.
different, but everybody comes in through the We Tell Your Story. So I'm not having to have multiple cards, which is driving me nuts.
Right,
I
yeah.
have one card says what we do,
The other question I
and
had.
we tell, you know, life stories, love stories, business stories.
It reminds me of, I don't know if you ever saw
person
this.
that's already a member.
It was Nikon.
Look,
did
there is
a-
that.
Are you a Nikon or
Okay.
Canon?
I mean,
Mhm.
you know, because we're
Um,
inclusive anyway,
Okay.
so.
But the reason I say that is that's what
one of my
I
clients,
met with
you
a lady
know,
that's doing
Sparks
very good, and
Down.
I talked to her about,
Okay.
you need to
Well,
brand
it was a
yourself.
creative agency. I think
So,
they were
I'm gonna invite her.
elsewhere at the time, but they did
I'll come out.
Nikon like rock and roll or something,
Mhm.
and it showed a few different sides of
It'd be
Nikon.
amazing
They were
because
trying to
people get
show
stuck
you-
on whatever they're
but they're
doing.
showing
Thinking,
this picture of
gosh,
the
you know,
with
what
a
do you
Nikon
think, what I'll be doing that in 5
and it
years?
had
You
that
never
sort
know
of
where,
different
you know, it just may be the
feel.
foundation of where you're
Here's
headed.
the rock and roll side of Nikon, here's the, you know, like
Mhm.
landscape side of
So
Nikon.
I think that's.
Right.
Anyway,
It
so I'm
reminds
gonna
me
try to
of
get them
that.
all
I
started
definitely
being a
envision
virtual
it.
member.
Sure.
No.
Yeah, I
And
think
then
that
see
the,
how we can get them involved.
All right.
I would definitely choose a theme that is for photography and showcases your photos, because that's what, you want it to be visually
Right.
impactful.
Well, I'm primarily a filmmaker, but we do photos too. So that's kind of, you know,
Right.
but that's why I came with the name Storytellers, because ultimately I'm telling stories both ways.
Right.
And with my photography, you know, mini stories. But when we build albums, we're going to actually try and do narratives too, which is different.
Yeah, that's an interesting marketing strategy. It's all about, with the product, it's doing the job, and you're like, the job is telling a story.
Right.
The product will reflect that depending on what, you know.
Yeah, and I'm 60 years old. There's a bunch of tech, and I got a degree in engineering, but I mean, there's a lot of little techs come up and know a heck of a lot more than I want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
But story, I can always tell a good story. I'm a
Right.
journalist too.
Yeah, I mean, it's like,
Regardless of what the technology is, I tell a story.
right, I mean, that's your job. You know, it's not your job to be a programmer.
Right,
It's
right.
just not. And I know how much time this stuff takes.
I know.
So, trust me, it's good that you understand how.
You know, if I understand enough, then I can find the right people and do those kinds of things. So I want to fake, basically, I make money when I sell it.
Right.
I don't make money taking.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I would love to talk to you more about this. I definitely have some ideas. I have that.
I've got a couple people that have been helping me, everything's happening.
Oh, okay.
I'm just like, I'm frustrated. I'm ready to run.
Yeah.
I added my stuff to your
Well, I'll do that. But yeah, I'll give you my card and we can.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, somebody just found an article about it in Working Mother magazine, and I just reposted that on my thing too. That came up too. It probably popped up. Yeah. So I thought that was cool because it was found on Flex jars.
Life, love, and business. I do a lot of ways.
I don't think it's like an app that you can download, but it's, I think it's a responsive website.
What I'm going to do.
That's what when I need something on the go, I just log in to my.
Life story.
It'd be nice.
She did that little like write a blog.
Yeah.
They sent me the
Right.
email.
We wrap up today, you show them where they can.
Yeah.
on our site.
Yeah.
Also, so they can RSVP their WordPress
And it was out there all the time.
It's just there on the left-hand side where it says
The little things in the
their WordPress URL in there, and then it's gonna pick up your WordPress blog.
I was on staff. I started out 29 years ago.
Yeah.
I know that.
Every little bit
My wife was like, how do I hit
my goal is to eventually.
I'm gonna try and just, you know,
It's
once
already
they-
sick.
My dad's got Alzheimer's now. I just retired from television.
And so
last
you
year.
were
It's
just
like, I'm taking care of it.
Oh, Caroline.
I started.
This is Oh, yeah, oh my God.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
Yeah,
The
no,
one we're gonna do in March.
That would be actually a stand for the deal by helping welding thing. Find people who can utilize what you
So when you tell me the order, then I'll just need some time to get this. I gotta find time. We need to talk to her.
This is something we want to do, but I don't want to do
We
this
should
till
send you
March.
money over there.
All right, let's finish up. We only have about 20 more minutes. Oh, Carolyn, you can add your own self-hosted blog from the WordPress app
That's awesome.
on Android at least. I just saw that. I just downloaded it.
So it's WordPress time.
Cheryl,
That's
another
awesome.
thing is, before we wrap up, when you talk about the blogs on our site, have everybody at the end go to the mobile site, because they can actually read the blogs right from our site, right there on their smartphone.
Okay. Okay. So really quickly, I'm going to show you guys how to add a theme to your blog. It's really pretty simple, and there's a couple ways to do it. So you're in your dashboard, and go to Appearance, and then click on Themes. And then if you want to look for a theme right on the dashboard, which is a fairly simple way of doing it, it's, you can search by like color, and if it's responsive, I think you can search if it's responsive. Maybe not. But if you're doing like photo blogging, there's an option for that, so it really
I
highlights.
typed in weddings and came up with several really nice
Yeah.
options.
Yeah,
Typed in business, that came
that's
up.
how I found my wedding photographer. I mean, blogging is great for photography. You can find, if you want, a right sidebar, which is what I use. It has like your social icons and like an archive list. So you can, let's see, we want it to be white, right sidebar, and we want to do custom colors.
Cheryl, do you know how to do capture devices in that sidebar? Like, you offer someone a free juicy offer, something like that, if you capture their name and their email address, so you can build a database of people talking to.
Right, there's a plugin for that.
Okay.
I think MailChimp may have, MailChimp has an embed code.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still like working on my ebook, so I haven't put that into mine, but I mean, everybody, tons of people have that, so it's gotta be a fairly common plugin.
Okay, that's great.
Okay, so we kind of looked through the themes. I really like this one called Delicacy, at the house food. And it's as simple as clicking Install Now and then Activate. I'm not going to activate it because
You lose your.
I've personally coded. Yeah, I don't want to lose those days of my life. But you can always, it will save your theme, and whatever you do to it, it will save that, and you can reactivate that later. So when you activate that theme, depending on the theme and who made the theme, like we were talking about earlier, Ink Themes has a really great editor that it's just fill in the blank and like upload based. So they have really great theme options. Some places just give you options for like font colors. But to do any of that, you go to Appearance and then Theme Options. And it'll let you, oh, this is actually my ink thing, so I haven't spent days of my life doing this one. It only took like 2 hours, of course. So this is where you're going to change everything. So this is where you'll go to make, to put a background image, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Okay. Okay, so where were we? Okay, so you guys know how now to add a theme. Once you get to that point, there's just a couple more things you should really do before your website is pretty much done. And beyond just using a blog to blog, you can use WordPress to make your website, which is what I do. And I showed you guys before. This is my business website that is based entirely off of a WordPress theme. There's my cute little graphic. Okay.
Are you going to do anything about logos? Because I was going to say, when you said graphic, there's a great site I found yesterday called Graphic River. Very inexpensive logos.
Okay.
$29.
Yeah, I do my own logos because I just like love graphic design.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a
Graphic River. And they had some really good choices. I mean, I've worked at that agency for years, so I'm pretty poopy about it. Yeah. It's unbelievable because I'm paying hundreds and hundreds.
I was
of
going to say
dollars
$250, $300 for a logo.
$350 is a fair price for a logo, you know, and that's for a little mom and pop shop.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, I don't charge $30. I charge much more than $30.
Yeah, you get an ad agency involved, it's 10 grand or 20 grand.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, they're looking at a whole brand.
Yeah, and I mean, there definitely is that, like, with my clients, we sit down and say, like, okay, what kind of colors do you like? What's the brand we're looking for? You know, you do a lot more of that.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of
So,
investigation.
and if you're branding across many different platforms, then I kind of like having that very specific, you know, customized process. But if you're just looking for something for now, you know, before you really get your brand, then, I mean, there's definitely, vectors from $1. Cool. All right, I'm on this website, totally.
Yeah, if you're going to become a household name, you need your own
identity. Yeah, customized brand. But yeah, if you're just, you know, it's good to have a logo. So if you're just getting started, that's definitely a great option. And you could find something that totally fits your brand. For $30 is like worth looking. Okay, so, all right. Just a couple little things. I'm going to show you guys what we'll talk about next month because we don't really have much time left. But if you look at my page, I have a blog, and I'll show you guys how to set that up so that the link blog goes to my blog instead of typing in the domain and it going to my blog, because WordPress is a blogging platform, if that makes any sense. We have static pages, like services. It's a static page. It's always the same. It doesn't, I mean, unless I change it, it doesn't post new posts and stuff like that. So how I did that is really simple. You go to your WordPress dashboard, pages, add new, and you add to your page. You give it a title, and you have your copy in the body right there.
Now your blog is separate, but your blog page is linked to your separate blog, right?
Which blog? The Stylist Quell?
Yeah.
Okay.
Isn't that your blog right there?
The blog on this page is actually just a social media blog.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, it means specific for. I do post most of these on the Stylist Quell, but they are created specifically for.
So that blog right there is part of your website. Okay.
Right. Yeah, I access it through the WordPress dashboard.
Okay.
But I do link to, you go to About, it's a drop-down menu, and then if you hit Portfolio, drop down, and if you click Personal Blog, it'll take you to the Stylist Blog. And there's my little wedding blog. Mint. All right. So I definitely recommend for any business to have an About page and a contact page, of course. Depending on what you offer will determine the other pages that you need. And we can get into that a little bit more in depth next time about having parent pages and drop-down menus and that sort of thing. But really quick before we go, before you can show those pages, they kind of just live out in WordPress land. You're hosting them, they're your pages, but you have to link to them for anyone to really logically be able to find them. So to do that, and this also means you can have like 200 pages. and only really link to like 3. So a lot of times I'll host, like, if I want to host a file, or I'm like really into the Grizzlies, so I make all these backgrounds for the Grizzlies for like Twitter and PC and stuff. And I have a page that I'll link you to specifically on Twitter, but you can't necessarily easily find it through my website because it's not totally relevant. I mean, it is, but that's not what I'm showing people when I'm sending them to my business site. So how I manage that is going to appearance and then menus. And when it refers to menu, or when it says menu, it's referring to the navigation bar, which is up at the very top. So that's my menu. And how I manage that is I drag, well, I guess you have your pages over to the left. That's all of the pages that you have. You can click them and click add to menu, and it will go to your navigation bar. So that's how people are going to find those pages. But I don't need these. And you can change like where they go. And if you want recipes to be a subcategory for fashion for some odd reason, you put that underneath and to the right of it. And so when you click on fashion, it'll bring down recipes.
Ooh,
You'll
one more time.
So
Oh, you just drag it in order to make it fall under.
Right.
So it's a drop-down menu.
Yeah, so you can drag it underneath, and it'll just mean that it goes fashion, then recipes.
Gotcha.
But if you go underneath and to the right, it's fashion. When you hover, it'll bring down the recipes.
Thank you. That was my missing link.
Okay, good.
That's awesome.
Okay, so that is simple enough. Really quick before we go, I know I keep saying that. I'm going to show you guys how to start blogging on the BOCI site, which is why we're all here. So you go to your profile, and blogging is really just sharing your opinions on something. And like how I do at Del Mar is we work on these highly organized, outlined, like strategically, scheduled posts. But then when she gets the inspiration, it's like, go with it, man. Like if you have something to say and you're passionate about it, write about it. And if that's how you're feeling, it's as simple as going to your profile page, clicking share a blog post. It'll bring up this little box, write a title, like, I love blogging so much, but spell it right. And then you say, this is why I love it so much. And then you can publish it. It's that simple. If you want more options, click on more options, and it'll allow you to schedule it in the future, add tags, which just means essentially a tag is telling the search engines and other people how to find you. So if I was writing a post about how much I love blogging, I would say blogging Cheryl Hurley, because I know people search for my name on BOCI like all the time, constantly, nonstop. So if anyone ever did that, this post would come up. Go home, please, and search for my name.
Now, is this built on a WordPress base? Because it used to be built on something else that they started charging for. It used to be free, and they started charging for it. It's always been kind of a hard thing for me to figure my way around on.
On the BOCI side?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little more, it's not as straightforward as the WordPress.
Yeah.
But once you kind of get used to it, because I write all my blogs in WordPress when I blog for the week for BOCI. Just because I've done WordPress, I've written probably 400 posts on WordPress easily.
It's just clean, it's easy to navigate, and I don't know why we're not using it.
Right, well, I mean, WordPress that's what they do,
Right.
So it's like, I would hope that they do it really well, because that's all that they do.
Yeah.
But, if you want to share your blog on BOCI, which I definitely recommend because people will promote it, and it's the same content, and if you link it back to your personal page, then you're getting traffic.
Okay.
If you can copy and paste into this platform and publish it, and you're good to go. It's the same
So
stuff.
copy and paste, you mean actually copy everything off of my personal blog and just drop it in there?
Yeah,
And does it
so,
automatically link then, or it just shows up on your blog separately, or how does that work?
what do you mean link?
Well, I mean, to me, I would like to, people say, oh, that's a great article, I'd like to find out more. How do they get back to my site?
I would put your, what I do
Drop a
when
URL at the bottom?
right, well, most of the time, yeah, anytime that I'm copying something from my blog, promoting my business, I write at the very bottom, like in italics, so it looks like I write for a newspaper. It's like, Cheryl Hurley is a social media consultant, and whatever, and it links to my stuff so that people know where to go, but it's also linked to your profile. So if I read a blog that you wrote on BOCI and I was really interested, I would go to your profile, and it would have your website.
Right.
But like we were talking about before,
People think to take the extra time sometimes.
don't like test your readers,
Yeah.
People do that so much. They make it complicated, and
Make it easy, step one, now step two.
make a link that says click here for more information. So, and then that's an inbound link, and that's going to boost your SEO for your actual website.
Okay, now which is the inbound link?
The link that you have on BOCI
Coming to
saying click here for more information, which would go to your website, will be an inbound link for your website.
Okay. Great.
So that every inbound link, it just means essentially search engine results are a popularity contest.
Right.
So if you have inbound links from BOCI and they do a lot of linking, I mean there's a lot going on the BOCI site, it's going to rank higher. So when you have an inbound link from BOCI, you're getting like a popularity vote and you'll have better SEO and better search results. Yeah, so definitely link, always link where you want people to go. It's like it's possible that they'll do that, like I said, go to your page and then, but I mean, honestly, I make sure that every link opens in a new tab just because I don't want people to leave it. It's like, you can't make it too complicated.
Okay, and you can tell that within BOCI? Can you tell it within?
I believe so.
I know you can do it within WordPress. I've seen it, don't know how to do it.
I do the code, honestly. But let's see, if I click link so much, yeah, you'd have to pretty much do the code, but it's really simple. What I do is I write my blogs in WordPress. So if I want to write this blog or whatever and say, like, I love blogging so much, and then make this a link to the stylist quote. Open link in a new window, add link, and then I go to text, which gives me the code. Copy and paste that into the HTML editor of BOCI. So if I copy that and paste it there, it has the open in new tab code.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I have to look at it a little bit closer, but yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Is that ongoing, or is that just for that blog page?
That one post.
Yeah,
that one post.
It's the specific post.
Okay.
So every time you do a post, you do the same routine, and that way you're doing inbound links back to your site.
Right. It's essentially every time you post a blog, you post it on Twitter, you post it on Facebook. It's essentially posting it on BOCI. But if you have any links that open in a new window, if you have pictures, any of that, you don't have to completely redo it. If you copy the code, you can paste it in BOCI. And we'll talk about this much more next time, because next time we're going to talk about the actual writing, the adding images, adding all the media. But since you asked, it's, just like go to the source, copy the source, put it in the source of BOCI.
And there must be, I know there are, because I signed up for one a long time ago, was some kind of site that probably takes whatever I post once and sends it a bunch of places. The other day I was just playing around on my Twitter account, which I rarely go, and I've been posting like daily for 2 years, didn't know it, because it was picking up something from somewhere else I signed up.
Yeah, there's a lot of plugins will do that. There's one plugin that's great, and it will post every 4 hours on Twitter, an old post. And especially since Twitter is real time, it's like with Facebook, you can go to their Facebook page and see what they posted this morning. It's no big deal. But with Twitter, if you miss it, you have to go to my Twitter feed and you know, go down a few pages to see my new blog.
Yeah.
So the plugin keeps it going constantly.
What got me looking was the other day I got a thing from LinkedIn says, congratulations, you're in the top 10% of the country of people following you. And I'm going, what? And so I started looking, and it's just like, I wasn't trying.
Right. I know my dad, I'm the social media person. My dad was like, did you get the email that said you're in the top 1% of people? I was like,
a marketing ploy of
I know, he was like, I think it's fake. I was like, I didn't get it. So, I don't think so. I just kind of got into LinkedIn more recently, unfortunately. But I love it now. Okay, so we'll talk a lot more about the very basic code that is involved. And you don't have to know how to code at all to do this, but there are certain things you can do if you have a few basic little HTML tricks up your sleeve. Okay, so the last thing Sherry wanted me to show you guys is the BOCI site is responsive, and you can read blogs from your phone, which is really cool because we're all trying to promote each other. I mean, that's why we're here, trying to learn about other businesses and see what we can do together. So if you go to businessovercoffee.biz, it comes out, it couldn't be simpler. It's right there. So make sure you're reading this, especially for all posting, our blogs. It's great to have comments and to know this was a great post, this post could be better. Okay, so I think that is it for today. I have like 7 more things we're supposed to cover, but I may have been overzealous. Yeah. So are there any questions?
Let's give it up for Cheryl.
I do have an announcement to make. For most of you guys know, I am a part of BNI now, representing BOCI. 2 weeks from today, well actually the 25th, it's that Monday, I'm going to be flying to Syracuse, New York, and then the very next day driving back down to the south with my mom. So I may or may not be able to make that Thursday at the BNI event. If I don't, I'm going to need basically a substitute. Anybody who wants to go, it's at 7:15 in the morning at the Crescent Center, and you go and you do a little 60-second spiel about me, which I would write for you, and then once it gets back to guests and substitutes, y'all can do your own business, 60-second little spiel. And
what time and date?
It's the 28th, it's a Thursday, and it's 7:15 until 8:45 in the morning at the Crescent Center.
Grandkids drop off.
Yeah, it's very early, but it's really fun. Do what?
I've done that for Gina.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And Shelly's also. Shelly and Bruce are both in my group, so it's with my brother. But I may also, and if anybody ever wants to come with me as a guest to promote your business, they definitely encourage that.
For Lynn.
Yeah.
So we're going to wrap up. You all, thank you, Sarah, for letting us know that. And safe travels to Syracuse and coming back down.
Thank you.
But we're going to wrap up. Cheryl has done a wonderful job. Let's give her another round of applause. We thank our virtual audience for joining us. Please make sure you check us out at businessovercoffee.biz. Of course, some of this may have been hard to explain on Twitter as we were trying to do our tweets and even online, but that's the beauty of recording, and you'll be able to go back and work at your own pace and catch up with us. Shirley's done a wonderful job, and we look forward to the next time that we get delved in a little bit more about blogging, so we can all take our blogs to the next level. I am stepping in and closing out for Sherry, because Sherry had to leave, but I thank everyone for joining us, and until next time, businessovercoffee.com, businessovercoffee.biz, and Business Over Coffee is all about bringing everyone together. Thanks, everyone.